Are you ready?
I just drove for an hour and I'm ready to try some Popeyes sandwiches. Let's go. So after an hour of driving, we are at Westfield, Stratford City. Now, I've never been to this Westfield before, it's far, but we finally made it. We're here at the Popeyes and really excited to finally try the sandwich that I've seen all over social media for the past, well, 2 years now. Someone literally just walked past with an American accent and said, you guys are doing a documentary on Popeyes? We have that like everywhere in America, it's like McDonald's. So clearly it's taken the UK by storm. The sandwich that broke the internet, huge queues since it opened. Let's go and see how it tastes.
Spicy or normal?
2 spicy, please. And there is what we've been waiting all this time for. What should I try first? Tell me. So we got brioche bun, cheese, mayo, chicken, pickles, and a spicy sauce. Better be good. Bismillah. It's a good burger. My expectations were very low. I thought it was going to be like really dry, really dead, very crunchy. Considering that they were serving that many people, respect to them, it's a really good burger. I really like it. I've heard a bit of hate for it online as well. Some people saying, oh, it's overrated and stuff like that. It's overrated if you hype it up in your mind. I expected it to be really bad, so it's good. The chips are good too. I really want to try a Popeyes biscuit. They call them biscuits, they're basically scones. Cajun gravy, as if I wasn't unhealthy enough as it is. I don't know if any of you have seen that meme, but there's a meme about like eating a dry Popeyes biscuit without a drink. Apparently it like knocks you out. Anyway, let's try it without any sauce. That is bare dry. But it's nice, it's really buttery. I don't know what the purpose of it is though. I think that was a solid 8 out of 10. It was really good. I think the things we got to look out for is that crunchiness. Chicken was really crunchy. It was really tender as well. They do say that it was marinated for like 12 hours, I think, in buttermilk and seasoning and stuff like that. So we need to make sure that it's really tender. Also need to make sure that we got the balance between the spiciness and the pickles and that spicy, sweet sauce that they've got going on underneath as well. All that stuff is really important. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Only things that let it down. The cost, I think, is a little bit too much. It was like £9 for a deluxe meal. It's too much. I mean, for the amount of time we waited as well, like, I don't know. I guess it would be justifiable if it was quick. But yeah, I'd say a solid 8 out of 10. It was a really good burger. We're gonna have to see how we can improve it. Maybe throw in a few tricks and little bits and bobs here and there. So anyway, let's go back to the kitchen. Now that we are back in the kitchen after what felt like hours traveling and trying that Popeyes, yes, it was amazing, but I'm sure we can make a better sandwich in a much quicker time. So let's start with our chicken thighs. Now, to be honest, I couldn't find boneless thighs, and if you can't find that either, I'm just gonna show you how to debone them nice and quickly. So get these out. So what we're gonna do, if you have a whole leg like this and you can't find access to sort of, you know, a boneless thigh, very simple. Leg has its little bend there. You just find out where that is and just cut straight through it. Then turn it over and you can see there's one bone that runs along it, and that's all we're trying to get rid of. It's super simple. Just run your knife along the back of that and expose that bone. You can then use 2 fingers to literally just like wiggle it out, you know? So as you can see, I've got it out here. Bismillah. And I'm literally just gonna scrape off and we cut it off just like that. So the bone's gone. This is a boneless chicken thigh now. There should be like a little knuckle that's left on the end. So you wanna just like carefully remove that so you don't waste too much. And then what we can do is start trimming off the fat. We're totally removing the skin here. So we're just gonna take that skin right off. You can use a cloth or a tissue if it makes it easier. But if you're a real, I was gonna say a real man, but that doesn't really hold up in 2022. If you're a real chef, then just pull it off with your hands. We've got all this like fatty bits that are left off. So just trim it off. It's not to say that we're trying to be super healthy because we are deep frying it in oil, but that is not going to taste nice when you deep fry it. And I suppose the nice thing about butchering it is that you can control what goes in the food that you make. And that's how simple it is. It literally took me 30 seconds. We have our boneless thigh. And I'm just going to do that with the other chicken. There we go, just clean that up. And there is our thigh, nice, boneless, minimal waste, just a bit of fat, skin, and bone. Now that we have our chicken thighs cut up into the ways that we want it, we're going to sort of soak it in a buttermilk and pickle juice sort of mix. And it sounds a bit gross maybe, but this is the key behind Popeyes sandwiches. So what I'm gonna do is just chuck that right on top. And the reasoning behind this is, and I'm not a scientist, so if anyone knows better, by the way, you are coming in the shot a bit. I'm in the shot a bit. I can bet out a bit more. That's it, that's the limit, yeah, don't come past that. Bro, listen, don't ever come into my shot again. So, you better. Okay, so we've put the buttermilk and we're putting some pickle juice onto our chicken thighs. This might sound like a really weird thing to do, and to be honest, the reason why we're doing this, and I'm not a scientist, so please feel free to correct me, but from my understanding of how chicken and meat in general works, is that we sort of have the protein molecules within each sort of piece of meat. And when you cook it, it kind of wrings out and all that juice sort of comes out. So when we're putting this acidic mix of buttermilk and pickle juice over the chicken and letting it sit for a bit, it's really starting to loosen up those protein molecules so that when we cook it, it retains its juices a lot better and doesn't sort of leak out all that, you know, precious flavor and juice. And this is why it's really important that, you know, places like Popeyes, they marinate their chicken in buttermilk over 24 hours is what they say. So we haven't got that much time, but it's still gonna really sort of get some really good flavor and some good juices coming out the chicken. Well, we'll see at the end. This is an ode to Ainsley Harriott. If you don't have access to buttermilk, you can absolutely use milk and vinegar, but you can also use just straight up like pickle juice and like some chili and stuff like that in it. It will make like a brine with some salt and water if you don't even have that. And you can also just use a natural yogurt because natural yogurt also has that acidity to it as well. Anything really. And natural yogurt, we use it in our own cooking anyway, in like Asian food. We use natural yogurt, and a lot of these terms nowadays of like, you know, it's the science behind cooking has just been done for centuries. We just don't really have terms for it. So yeah. Use whatever. Okay, so now what we're going to do is make a very simple dry batter. This can be absolutely anything that you want, but the three essential parts for me are going to be some plain flour. I'll leave all the sort of measurements in the description, but I'm going to put in some plain flour. This is so that it gives it like a really good sort of structure. It holds onto it really well, and it will also help with the color a bit as well, because it generally holds a bit more color and it browns better than corn flour does. But we are going to use some corn flour as well, probably half as much, just because corn flour has a really good sort of crispy texture when you cook it on things. So you often find that when we make things like, when we're trying to make things really crispy, like crispy chicken and stuff like that for Chinese cooking, we're using corn flour because it makes things super crispy. On top of that, if that wasn't enough, we're adding in some baking powder as well. Just about a teaspoon of it will do. It's not gonna affect the flavor at all, but what it will do is make things super crunchy and crispy, which is what we're trying to do. Then we're gonna season it. You can do this with absolutely whatever you want. I'm just gonna use a little bit of salt. I'm also gonna put in some hot cayenne pepper because the Popeyes sandwich has a little bit of a kick to it. So I think we're gonna try and get that. It also helps really well with the color. So we're gonna put in some paprika as well. This is what I say is really important. Whatever seasoning that you put in, try and include paprika because it's really good for color, and you really want a nice like glowing like orangey red sort of chicken. You don't want a sort of pale yellow one. It really helps with that kind of color. We're also gonna add in some onion and garlic powder, and that will basically be it. Onion, put the onion. And we're just gonna mix it up together nicely, making sure that all the seasoning and all the flours and the baking powder is nice and evenly distributed. You really wanna make sure it's mixed up because that seasoning will just hide in pockets and you don't wanna have uneven seasoned chicken. Last, that's it. Let the chicken sit a bit longer now. So what we're gonna do, put this aside, and we'll make our sauce nice and quick. Get everything ready, because that's the best thing about burgers. You just get everything ready. Hello, listen, we're trying to film excellence here, okay? I need less of the baby noises. So we are going to make a very simple marinade using Faisal's wonderful bowls as demonstrated previously on Freshly Grounded. We are just going to combine together equal amounts of sriracha, an equal amount of honey, and an equal amount of mayo. To be honest, you can taste it to adjust it, but at this point, like, it barely needs any tasting because you just sort of know what you're gonna get. We've made this sauce actually before once on Freshly Grounded for the dynamite prawns, and it's a very similar sauce. It's my go-to sauce, it's just so simple, you know, like you don't need any sort of directional recipe. You just mix it up together. It's great, simple. You know, this is sort of the basic level of cooking. You've got the spiciness, you've got the sweetness, and you've got the mayo that sort of adds that creaminess and a little bit of vinegar. And that's it, that's just cooking. It's just balancing all those flavors together. So there's a simple sauce out of the way. And now I think we can start cooking our chicken. So what I'm gonna do actually, just to test if the oil's hot enough, I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of flour. You should see it react straight away. So right now it's kind of just soaking in, it's not bubbling. That's not what we want. You don't want to put chicken in and it just kind of goes sad and limp and lifeless and just gets full of grease. We don't want that. So what we're gonna do is wait for this to bubble up a bit and then we can start putting our chicken in. You want to go for about 190 degrees if you're actually measuring the temperature. Otherwise, just go for like a medium heat, it should be enough. I would never go too high because it will burn it, and you want to make sure that it's evenly cooked. A medium low heat is generally actually better for frying things. I always find that it makes sure that everything is cooked nice and evenly. We're just gonna take a little bit of our flour, just drop it in. You see, it sizzles nicely. and then it disperses. That's what we're looking for. So we're just going to very simply take our thigh, pop it into the flour and really sort of pack it in. You want it to get super, like normally it's counterintuitive to put wet into the dry. You want it to sort of to keep the wet and dry separate. But in this case, we actually want to have some of the buttermilk make lumps in the flour. This is gonna make it super like crispy and add lots of texture to it. So really pack it in, make sure it's done nicely and drop off any excess, make sure it's all fully coated. And that is going straight into the oil. I'm going to sort of just test it, see, make sure that it's good. And then I'll lay it away from me to make sure I don't get any splashback. Bismillah, there we go. Now that that first one has survived the test, we will put the rest in. And the thing about it is that you'll actually have, as you add more chicken in, the temperature lowers. So just bear that in mind that you don't want to overcrowd it too much. Ow, oil spitting at me. Well, you know what? I can handle it because I am Yusuf Ali. Cool, simply how we're gonna plate up, to be honest, it's however you want. I'm just gonna put some sauce on the bottom and top, because why not, of each of the buns, just like that. Lay on that bit of lettuce and pickles, and go for 3 for each one, just like that. And then we can put a nice fat piece of chicken on top, and that just looks so good. Bismillah. Look at that, so much juice coming out of it, but it still stays so crispy. And of course, you can double up on the thighs if you want, because some people will look at them and be like, that's not a burger, it's not enough. Put more in then. It's your burger, if you have a taste. Yeah, bismillah. Wow. It tastes so good, to be honest. You've got that balance of sweet and spicy and pickly. This is what you want in a Popeyes burger. Didn't take us that long at all to make. A lot quicker than having to go and queue up for one yourself. So yeah, why not try and make one yourself? Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Made Halal.